I think a lot of these like events and everything that's happening, and I know it's real. Like I know people are dying. I know, like, dude, the 40 babies or whatever that got burned alive, or kids that got burned alive, and then like the beheaded, like that's some crazy shit, man. Like it's happening.
I've heard that's not true, but then I've also heard that it is confirmed and it is true. So I don't know, fog of war, there could be propaganda mixed in and sprinkled in to get people riled up for their cause, right? Because even Americans were saying like, oh, they were throwing babies out of incubators, right, in Iraq. And that was like trying to get people to have an emotional response to what? They're killing babies,
That's true.
But to be honest with you, man, it's there's some shenanigans afoot for sure. Listen, Israel has the most advanced surveillance network in the world, better than freaking America, better than Russia, better than China. These guys are on it. They know everything that's happening around them. Okay. You're telling me that hundreds and hundreds of soldiers have been training. Okay. This was an operation. This was a military operation with hundreds and hundreds of soldiers involved, executed like tactfully, okay, with arms, with freaking paragliders, with boats, with cars, with trucks, with bulldozers, with bombs, and the most advanced surveillance apparatus in the world had no idea this has been happening for months.
Right.
Months.
Yeah.
And they hit
it takes
17.
Time. Yeah.
They hit 17 cities simultaneously, and nobody was aware that it was coming. I don't buy that at all.
No,
at all.
Me either.
These guys can see a freaking fart on their radar across in Gaza, but they didn't know this was freaking coming. I don't buy that at all. Yeah. It's also very curious that, again, I love my life. I would never do anything to harm myself. Okay. It's also curious that our boy Netanyahu out there, that guy was on the ropes just a little while ago because he was ousted as prime minister.
Yeah. Can you do you know that whole story?
Fraud. It was something about laundering money, and
I didn't know it was fraud.
In trouble too. It was something about money and stealing, and it was just these trumped up charges, right?
How is he back now?
Oh, because he like went to court, and they still, even though he was in court, I think there was another election, and he won that election because he's very, very popular.
Sure.
Okay? Yeah. But then all the charges disappeared. Then he started putting in his own judges and like the Supreme Court. There's this big thing going on where he's like moving in Israel, taking some pretty drastic steps, and not everybody's on board, even though a lot of people there do like him because he's a very strong leader, you know?
Yeah.
So everything against him kind of goes away. All right. And he's back in power. And then within a short matter of time, this happens. Right. And supposedly nobody knew anything about it. But it's like, dude, how did this get by? Dude, to me, just because obviously my tinfoil hat is on hardcore right now, to me, it was like the guy got deep state attacked. Him and his family and his wife got ousted, got all these charges put up against him. And to me, the theory is like they came to him and were probably like, hey, we'll give you power back. You just have to play ball when the time comes. And this is the time that he's playing ball. You see what I'm saying? Because there's no way in hell that they didn't see this coming. There's just no way. That's impossible.
No, you make a great point, man.
Right? It's like all these dorks that like pull off terrorist attacks in America, and then they're like, they were on FBI watch lists. And it's like, what were they watching? Like, if they were on a list, what were they doing with that list?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So true, dude. And what's happening here too, like with the borders, they're saying that most of the people that are coming through the borders are like from Syria. Did you read that?
Not that most are from Syria, but there's a lot coming in from Syria, from Pakistan, from all over the Middle East. They said they have over like 160 that have come across that met the criteria for terrorist threats, and they've lost track of all of them in the U.S. Wow. So it's like, dude, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. And I'm like, I'm not trying to like fearmonger. No, you know what I mean? Sure. And that's the other thing people keep saying. Like, I'll post something, even today, posting like, hey, the leader of Hamas is calling for global jihad on Friday the 13th. Be careful. And people are like, fear mongerer. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm literally just showing you what this guy is saying, and I'm telling you to be careful. So it's not like I'm telling you, hey, the world's ending on Friday the 13th. That would be fear mongering. I'm just trying to make people aware of what the freaking world, what's going on in the world. You know what I mean? Make your own choices. If you're fearful, get right with God, and he'll sort it out for you. You know, I'm not fear mongering or trying to make anybody feel any way.
Crazy stuff though, man.
Those are my 2 cents.
You know, yeah, I mean, I wonder...
and on top of all that, the turn of the freaking frog's gay.
You sounded just like him.
Really?
Like Alex Jones, yeah. Alex Jones is right about everything, guys.
Right about everything.
He hasn't been wrong yet. I mean...
Yeah, he hasn't.